guys, it's Ashley, and today I'm going to be talking about some unpopular opinions because we're doing the Unpopular Opinions book tag. This was one of those book tags that I never did because, as I've mentioned in a few videos before, if you've been around for a while, I don't really have unpopular opinions. In general, I tend to like most things that I read, and only relatively recently have I begun reading books that I'm just kind of like about, or have read about characters that I'm just kind of about. I can do this tag, but also only barely. So you'll notice with some of these answers that I'm giving, I am doubling up on some of the questions. Mostly because I don't have very many unpopular opinions, as I've already stated. Trying to answer all of them as best I can, and sometimes you just gotta give the same answer twice. So, without further ado, let's get started. I have no idea who originally made this tag, but if I find that while I am editing, I will let you know. And it'll be down below. Question 1 is really easy. It's a popular book or series that you didn't like, which I have a whole video on this topic. I will leave it linked down below, and I'll also put it in like a card thing up here. It's called Popular Books That I Don't Really Like, which is essentially the entire question here. One of those that I mentioned in that video is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. You can listen to my explanation of that in that video if you would like. But a book that I did not include in that video would be The Wicked Fox by Kat Cho, is that her name? I read this one back in July, and it was an okay story. I talked a little bit about it in some video of mine. I don't remember. Maybe it was one of my reading rush videos. I wish I had a better memory than I do. Yeah, I don't know. The plot was a little confusing, especially like at the end when everything sort of converged. And then like the main characters, specifically, like one of them, I just wasn't super crazy about. I don't know. I don't even remember the story. That's how much this book had an impact on me. So I apologize, but the story just was not for me personally. Question 2 is a popular book or series that everybody else seems to hate, but you really love. This question was honestly really hard for me. I had to scour my brain for all sorts of books and series that I've read, and genuinely the only one that comes to mind is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, which a lot of people still love, but it's one of those series that you hear a lot of crap about too. So this is the best thing that I can give. So question 3 is a love triangle where the person ended up with the person you did not want them to end up with, or an OTP that you did not like. So I'm gonna be talking about To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, so if you haven't read this story, go ahead and mute until the picture of the book comes down. I have nothing against the books. Personally, I don't remember enough of the second book to be like, oh yeah, she should have been with John Ambrose McLaren or whatever. I feel like people have also had this conversation like many times before. And again, this is just one of those book series that was like the only one that I could think of for this question. But anyway, the movie though, oh my god, they messed up that second movie, man. Like, you cannot tell me that you would pick Noah Centineo over Jordan Fisher in that movie. You just can't tell me that. You also can't put Jordan Fisher sitting behind a piano in one scene and not have him sing. They really messed that up for me, but the entire time I was watching it, I knew that she was going to end up with Peter, but I was just in my brain being like, they made Peter look so bad, to me at least, in that movie. Again, I don't remember the second book. If she had ended up with John Ambrose McLaren, it would have been like, okay, good, you go. You learned that he was just not good news, he was not good for you, like, you go. But then she ended up with Peter anyway, which we all knew that she was going to because that's how the book ends, and it was just kind of like she was settling for something less than what she could have had, and it pissed me off. You can't change him so much from the first movie and make him so unlikable, and then not have a big enough turnaround for her to be like, oh yeah, I like him over this other guy, when the other guy is clearly so much better than he is. Anyway, I have a lot of thoughts on that, so yeah. Sorry if you don't feel the same way, but Jordan Fisher over Noah Centineo any day. Number 4, a popular book genre that you hardly reach for. So this for me is going to be horror books. I genuinely just don't reach for them often, and if I do, which I don't think I have, but if I do, it's because I'm trying to branch out of my comfort zone. I have nothing against horror books, and I'm genuinely interested in trying them out. I'm just scared of absolutely everything, so it makes it hard for me to want to go into a scary story. Like thrillers and murder mysteries and things like that, I'm totally okay with, but like actual horror scares me. So I haven't been able to like force myself to hop into that yet, but it's definitely always been a genre that's like on my list to try. Number 5 is a popular or beloved character that you do not like. This is one of those ones where I'm gonna reuse an answer, and for me this is going to be Cardan from The Cruel Prince. As I already said, I don't like the series. I read the first book, I don't like it. Again, you can watch my popular books I don't like video if you want to know more about my reasoning behind that, but I don't like Cardan, even though I see fan art and pictures. You know those like Twitter accounts that are all like, you know, out of context, The Cruel Prince and stuff like that? Like I see that and I'm just like, I don't correlate what I read with what everybody else is seeing, so I'm like, I don't understand why he's so popular. I just genuinely don't like him. Fun story time. The other day I was going through one of our drawers in our house where we keep all of like, you know, old arts and crafts stuff, and we keep like batteries, and it's just like a random like, you know, catch-all drawer that we just throw crap into. We also have a bunch of like cards for card games, and I found this one pack of cards that I got from a fairy loot box years ago when I was still a fairy loot rep, and I pulled it out and I started going through the cards, and it's just like a normal deck of cards, but they were Cruel Prince themed, and I looked and I saw, and the king was Cardan and the queen was Jude, and I don't even know who the jack was, but it was just like, I saw it and I'm like, no thank you, and I just tossed that shit back in that box and closed that drawer, and that was the end of it. Don't want to see those ever again. It gave me like a severe flashback to reading that book and being like, oh hell no. Number 6, a popular author that you just cannot seem to get into. For me, this is going to be Leigh Bardugo, which I'm so sad about because so many people treat her like a queen. So many people are so obsessed with her and her writing and her characters. I did feature 2 of her series out of 3 series that she's ever written in that, again, popular books I don't like video, so this answer was probably, you know, a long time coming for those of you who've watched that, but I have to put her here because she's like really the only author that I can think of who's super, super popular that I just for some reason cannot get behind. I have nothing against her or her work. For some reason, the Grisha trilogy was not for me, and King of Scars was definitely not for me, though I did really enjoy Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and would definitely reread those again. The other ones were just like not my favorite. It has nothing to do with her writing. I do like her writing, but it's just the plot itself. Like the Grisha trilogy was slow and boring. I hated the Darkling. I wasn't crazy about Alina, if that's her name. Alina? And then King of Scars, the plot was weird and confusing, though I love Nikolai and Zoya, so I don't know, man. I don't know what it is about her books and her stories that I just haven't been able to get into recently, but there it is. There it is, I'm sorry. Number 7 is a popular book trope that you are tired of seeing. So book tropes are so insanely difficult for me to talk about because I don't think that I have a book trope that I despise or am tired of seeing, because so long as a trope is done well, then I don't mind it. Like, I recently just read Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I read that book and it was so good. I absolutely loved it. And there is sort of like a love triangle in that book. And as much as I think that like love triangles are overdone and, you know, don't need to happen anymore, I still freaking love love triangles. So like if it's done well in a book where it's like it makes you want the character to be with both of them, like, you know what I mean? Like they're both equally, like, you know, fascinating, and like you want to see what's gonna happen with both of these characters if they were both with her or whatever. It's like interesting to me in that way. You know what I'm saying? If I see something like that before I pick up that particular book, it's not going to ward me off from reading that book, if that makes any sense. I do know that there are like some really bad tropes that like maybe romanticize certain like objectively bad things. If I hear about something like that before I read the book, it will most likely ward me off from reading that book. Question 8 is a popular book or series that you have absolutely no interest in reading right now. I was actually gonna make an entire video about this as well, but I honestly could not gather enough books for a list long enough to make make that video. So for this question, I'm going to give the top answer that was on that list, and that is Serpent and Dove by whoever the hell writes this book. When Blood and Honey came out, everybody was freaking out over it. Like, everybody was getting their copy, everybody was posting about it, everybody was freaking the hell out. And I was sitting over here like, I don't understand the hype. I remember back in like a book expo or book con or whatever it was, when everybody was getting arcs of Serpent and Dove and people were excited and freaking out because they really wanted to read it. Back then I was like, oh, maybe this could be something I'm interested in. But then I went and I watched Cindy from Read with Cindy's video on why she did not like Serpent and Dove, and damn if that video made me not want to pick up that book. I'll leave the video that she made linked down below, though you may have already seen it because it's like extremely popular and so is she. But yeah, watching that video and hearing what this book was about, because before this I had absolutely no inkling as to what the summary was about, just made me never want to pick up the book. So there's that. Another one that I was going to put on this list, though recently I have had a bit of like a, I don't know, like a desire to possibly decide to get into the books, were the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, which I tried reading Cinder back in the day and could not get into it, but honestly I've been kind of thinking about trying again because I really like the new covers that they came out with. The only reason I didn't feature them in my last video about my cover change discussion was because I hadn't read the books. I feel like if I had the new covers, I might be inclined to try to read them. It's a really weird thing that my brain is trying to do to me right now to get me to read this series, but I'm just letting you know that's how I'm feeling. So the final question, question 9, is the saying always goes, the book is better than the movie. What's a TV show or movie that you found was better than the adaptation? Nope. What's a TV show or movie that you found was better than the book? There you go. I have a couple that I can say. For me, obviously, the To All the Boys I've Loved Before movies I think were better than the books. I already talked about them earlier, so I won't go into many more things about them. But yeah, I found them to better than the books. I like that they kept Laura Jean's like interests and hobbies and her general aesthetic, I guess, like very similar to that in the book, but the movies definitely felt older than the books did. The books felt very, like, I don't want to say juvenile, but they felt very young, and she felt very young and naive. And even though she's still like that in the movies, the movies, for some reason she also simultaneously feels older and a bit more grown up. So that's why I enjoyed those better. I also really love the Crazy Rich Asians movie, and if you guys were with me when I tried to read the book for the reading rush, I just could not get into it for some reason. I don't know. There were like so many different perspectives in the book, and it kept bouncing around, and it was just not something that I was like prepared for after watching the movie, and it following like mainly Rachel throughout most of the movie, and then there's like the book and it follows like a million different people. And also, I don't know if I am the person to be able to give this opinion because I genuinely only made it through like, I want to say 30% of the book before I stopped reading it. For all I know, if I had continued reading it, I would have found the book better than the movie, but as of now, having only read like a first portion of that book, I have enjoyed the movie more than I did my experience reading the beginning of that book. But a lot of people have said that the book gets really good, so again, I don't know if I am able to have that opinion, but that's just how I feel at this point in time. And this one just kind of came to me, but I actually really enjoyed the Pride and Prejudice movie. I only saw the 2005 version, I think it is, with Keira Knightley. And I also loved the book, but I gotta say, seeing it on film and like seeing all those moments happen and not having to get through the tough words in the book and the tough sentence structure and things like that, like, so wonderful. And so you guys, that was the Unpopular Opinions book tag from me. If you guys have an unpopular opinion about any book or series, including ones that I really love, feel free to drop them in the comments. I was actually planning on doing a like reacting to your unpopular opinions video, maybe like another crochet with me or something. I don't know, let me know how you feel. I might ask for some more on Instagram, and I might use your comments that you leave down below. So I know those videos were like super like I don't know, a year or two ago, but I never did one. That and like the reacting to assumptions about me, that kind of thing. I never did any of those videos, so now is my chance to try and do my own version. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this video. If you want to follow me on any of my socials, all of my handles are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Bye!